Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming to join me today. I'm Dr. Tamsin Woolley-Barker at TEEM Innovation Group, and I wanted to welcome you all today. I'm really excited about everything that's going on. I wanted to share it with you because I know it's a lot and it gets a little confusing to me sometimes. So I thought I'd share it all with you so you can see what my whole ecosystem looks like, and then you can self-select into it and find out how you can get involved the way that makes sense to you. So I got a little slide show for you today, and I'll just, let's get started. Let's just get started. Okay, well, I'm super excited because I just launched the Medium channel. So I actually did this on Friday, and some of you were there, but I forgot to record it. So welcome to Teaming Animal Style, and I wanted to call it this because I just launched the new Medium channel. Super excited about that. I've done a lot of writing over the last year, and finally getting around to sharing that. So keep your eye out for that. There's going to be a lot of great new articles, and I think you'll be intrigued by them. So, you know, just yay, we got the Borrego Institute for Living Design. What a whirlwind that was. We actually did manage to get this ranch. It's an 86-acre desert wonderland in Anza Borrego Desert, which is it's like 2 hours east of San Diego. And it is just an unbelievable place. There's rainbows and everything's amazing. We got the new Medium channel, Teaming Animal Style, so super excited about that, told you about that. And then we got a whole bunch of new publications coming out. So we have a whole roster, I think 5 different titles between now and the end of the year. So yes, Teaming Transformation is coming. You will receive that. I know a lot of you have supported me on Kickstarter and Indiegogo, some of you for many, many years. So know that I'm still working on it. It's coming. I'm really excited about it. I think progress is good. Here is the Borrego Institute. It is pretty amazing. You will never see no signs of human life there. And we even have a herd of peninsular bighorn sheep there, which when I was a kid, there was only 150 left in the world. And now I have a herd living in this canyon. So it's just amazing. Fantastic tracking opportunities. It's just everything you could ever want and more. So what are we going to do there? And so what I wanted to do was, I know that I do so many things, and it can get a little confusing. People are always like, oh, she's all over the place. But in reality, it's all one thing. It's all one thing. So I thought I would take this opportunity to explain how it is one thing to you, so that you can see what it is that I'm doing, and then you can figure out where you belong in there and how you'd like to participate, if it makes sense for you. So I just wanted to start at the beginning. You know, I as strange as it might seem, I've been taking stock on that, and the plan has not changed very much. Before I was 5, I knew I wanted to be like Jane Goodall. I was so just humbled by her, like how she would go out into their world instead of the other way around. She didn't study them in a zoo or in a lab through a microscope, that kind of thing. You know, she went into their world and earned their respect. And in exchange, they let her get to know them. So that really struck me as a kid. And also I was so interested in what is the difference? You know, that line is, I mean, now we know it's only 2% a difference in our DNA. And yet we're so very different in some ways and so very alike in others. I was a super geek, Lord of the Rings fan, not just Lord of the Rings, but I was actually a Tolkien fan, and I was a linguist. I wanted to be a mythic linguist. So if you'd have asked me then what I wanted to be when I grew up, it would be either Jane Goodall or a mythic linguist. I learned how to write Elvish, and just a total geek. But even now I'm studying myth and language and writing and poetry and the evolution of words. And I think that the evolution of words and stories has so many parallels with the change in gene frequencies and populations over time. I mean, it's really no different. You know, a little more labile, but really kind of a similar thing that we can trace back the stories, the history of our species and other populations. And the last one there is I was always an artist and always wanted to be an artist. And how do you get paid to be an artist? You know, so it seemed to me that science was something you get paid for. Mythic linguism and art, not so much. So it really shaped the way that I kind of planned this was, oh, I figured if I could get a biological degree, I could do art on my own time. I could write on my own time, and I can get more education on those things later in life. So that was my big plan at age, 4 or 5, whatever. And really, I'll kind of stick with it. Yeah, I majored in plant science and fine art, and then evolutionary biology. And I spent a lot of time in the field. A lot of people are biologists, but most of them study one gene these days, or one neuron, or something very small. And that was not my thing. I'm not a reductionist. I'm a big picture thinker, and that's increasingly important. But at the time, it really wasn't. I was really interested in the evolution of the brain and cognitive evolution. I was studying whales and studying brain evolution. And I ended up taking a job on a fishing boat, which was, well, it was interesting. But it got me interested in primitive man. So I ended up studying human evolution in Ethiopia for my doctoral work. And so I'm a bioanthropologist, evolutionary biologist. I studied sociobiology and evolutionary theory. And my particular interest was how do populations adapt to change, and how does evolution actually work? How does speciation, that process, work on the individual level? So these two baboons are really different. They have different social structures, different behaviors. They look different. But they do mate where they meet in the Awash National Park in Ethiopia. What was interesting to me was that the desert baboon had changed so quickly relative to the other baboons. So if they all split off, let's say 1 million years ago, the desert baboon had changed relative to that much quicker. And so I was interested, what is it about their social system that allowed them to do that? And what is it that also gave them such high levels of collaboration? So these baboons look really different, but they're also very collaborative. They stick together. So if you were to threaten one of their babies, the whole troop would turn on you. Whereas with these olive baboons on the top, they really don't care too much unless it's their own baby. So I was interested in that. How have they been able to change so fast? And what has made them more collaborative in this way? And it's not just an idle interest, because it really mirrors a lot of the human story as well. That we share 98% of our DNA with our chimpanzee and bonobo relatives, but we've changed so fast relative to them. And what is it about that? And we're so collaborative as well. So what is that? So as you know, it is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but it's the one that's most responsive to change. It was offered some positions, tenure track professorships, and I would have gone that route, but I'm really not cut out for, I found it a little rigid, a little constraining. I'm not cut out for the rigidity and politics of the academic life. So I actually took a job with a biotech. I ended up as a biotech scientist, a genetic engineer. And I was working on some novel technologies there. What I saw pretty much just reminded me of baboon politics, to be honest. So I was really struck by the dysfunctions of a team, and I kept thinking, yeah, you wouldn't design something this way. Like, this is not how nature innovates. And this is long before I thought about biomimicry. I became an entrepreneur. I was supporting my husband's business, and we were raising our family, and life was pretty good. It seemed all right. But then our daughter passed away, and My ex-husband, we lost a business, we sold a business, and just can't plan a perfect life. My ex-husband was living on the street in a van. It was a rough time. So here I am. I took stock, is what you do in evolution, right? You take stock and you go, well, what can I do? And I can write. I knew a lot about evolutionary theory. I was completely enchanted with living things. I didn't know if that added up to a job, but I did my best. So I started actually working with senior scientists and helping them get into executive positions. So coaching them in executive leadership. And then pretty soon after that, I discovered biomimicry. This is kind of illustrating the evolutionary process. This is me talking at the United Nations about the power of collaboration. And the United Nations at 6 o'clock, hard stop. And so I'm just about to do the closing remarks for the day, and at 6 o'clock hits. And my slides go up into the sky, and that's the end of that. But so what did I do? I look around and there's the photographer. So I asked him if I could borrow his socks. And I did a sock puppet show instead of my slideshow. So these are fighting mud skippers. Right there. Those are those guys. It's the same slide, right? So anyway, that worked. But that's kind of how evolution does, right? It's just see what you got available and repurpose it in whatever way you can. Move towards the next best option. Biomimicry, all of these living things have been honed for 3.8 billion years for this chaotic world. So if we're struggling to adapt to a chaotic world, we don't need to look very far for the answers, because we have them in our bones. We're living things, and we've survived just as all these other things have. All of us are survivors. All of us are related, and we've all helped each other to get this far. So I started writing the Biomimicry Manual. This is an article I used to do, a regular column. And it ended up becoming this book, TEEMING, which actually did pretty well. It sold out. I am just about to do a second edition. And I was speaking all over the world on innovation and working with all these companies. Well, what I found was that we would come up with all these fantastic ideas, and everyone would get excited. The engineers would get excited. Usually game changers, completely really radical ideas that were doable. But all too often, we just simply couldn't get it done because of the structure. The structure and the processes of these companies prevented change. So what I discovered is that the processes and structures that we live and work in are not designed to adapt to change. They are designed to prevent it. So how can we get from here to there with the system structures and processes that we have? I don't think we can. But everything has been designed like a machine. We've designed this as a machine. And it's simply not one. So we're living things. So living things grow, develop, learn, adapt, and evolve. It's as simple as it sounds. You think, oh, well, evolution or adapting, that's so simple, so basic. But what I've discovered is that there's a lot of misconceptions about it, and a lot of just plain old serious illiteracy on the evolutionary process and living systems in general. And so, as basic as it sounds, I'm gonna I come back here that there was one spark of life, and over time we've diversified and adapted, and the survivors are what you see remaining. So how does that happen? Any population has diversity within it. So you think, oh, those morpho butterflies are just a blue butterfly. But if you look, each one is different. They're all different. And so what's going on is the context is selecting from among those diverse variants and choosing certain ones. And so the population is shifting in that direction. And conditions are variable. So they're shifting back and forth. There's a certain amount of diversity that gets held within the population. And that diversity is the raw feedstock of adaptation. That is the juice. That's what natural selection has available to work on. And so as it does that, it diversifies. Living things diversify. They become uniquely suited to their way of life, and they become different. And over time, you end up with different kinds of species. So all this is to say that we have this idea of nature, red in tooth and claw, the dog-eat-dog world, the survival of the fittest, right? But in reality, that's not quite right, because what's really going on is that organisms avoid competition. There's nothing to be gained in death. So they don't do that. They actually are pretty good at, a lot of species have a pecking order or dominant hierarchy, and they kind of suss each other up and kind of just go a little bit over here. They avoid it. They'll do a little bit, what if I could? Maybe not. Okay. So that's kind of the dance that they're doing all the time, and it's resulting in this adaptive radiation. Over time, different species interact and start exchanging energy and matter. And that's the basis of these thriving ecosystems, full of diversity. So here's these water fleas. So what they do is their little eggs lie in the dust, the dry dust, for years until the rains come. So when the rains come, these ponds, they just explode into activity. So they start eating as fast as they can. But what they do is they make more clones. They clone themselves. So they're all female. They make more little females like themselves. And, why fix it if it ain't broke? It just make more. It's an efficiency machine. That's the way we design our companies. But what happens is as the water warms and dries up and the food decreases, some of them become male. They switch to sex and they start mating and they start creating diverse experiments, diverse eggs that will lay in the dust for the next rains. So you can see that living systems, when they need to adapt to change, they go for diversity, right? Cloning is great when you know the conditions, when it's predictable. When it is not predictable, you need diversity. You need to try different things, see what works. So it's efficiency versus resilience. And when you do these monocrops and you design the way that we do, there's no play in the system. There's no diverse experiments. There's no other options. So if that one thing doesn't work, that's all you got. These are ants on their nuptial flight. So what they do is on a single occasion when the rains come, all the females and males will take to the air. These are the virgin queens, take to the air and they'll mate. And these virgin queens won't stop until they mate with 6 different males, because they need that much diversity to support the colony. They need that much resilience. So it's really critical. We share 98% of our DNA with our chimpanzee cousins, but what's that 2% difference is something radical. And it turns out that 2% difference is social structure. We have such a different social structure. We've become a superorganism ape, which is very strange. And we have all the caring and creativity that our ape cousins have, but we are connected to each other fundamentally in a deeper way, more like ants and honeybees are. You can see that these creatures are creating these complex adaptive systems that look a lot like our own. So, traffic or cities or an ant nest, a honeybee hive, all of these things are created by superorganisms working in ways that are similar to us. So by sharing the costs and the benefits, they are more agile and resilient than any individual could be on their own. They've got more capabilities and more options. And yet they do share a purpose. Teams forage for work on the fly, like in honeybees, they work in trios, and one will be like a leader, more social and more active, and the others will be workers that go to work. And so in this way, they knit these distributed leaders, one in each trio, kind of knit this together into a fabric. And so these teams are going out, finding opportunities, They are recruiting other teams to join them on that. And they're consistent across superorganisms. So we see the same kinds of patterns in bees and ants and in humans. And it's a proven strategy, and it's one that has evolved over and over again because it works. So here are some of those deep patterns that we see. Collective intelligence, they all have their own diverse perspectives, and they're staging an honest competition of ideas that usually hit tipping point thresholds that can trigger certain kinds of cascading behaviors and strategies. Reciprocity, they depend on that. They share their cell walls, they share their pollen, they share the home building, and they share the raising and producing offspring. But anytime you have this kind of sharing, it's always going to be open to parasitism. And so the superorganism strategy for avoiding that is distributed leadership. So like I said, they have these distributed leaders that are knitting the fabric together. They're distributing the pheromones for identity and shared purpose. And we do something similar to that in our own groups as well. Life is always creating conditions conducive to life, but superorganisms do it in unique ways, very specific ways. Here, for instance, this is Botswana. The termites there, these macrotermites, make these huge towering mounds, like it could be 30 feet tall. They go out at night and they collect all the little scraps of grasses and twigs and things that isn't worth anything to any other species. They bring it down into the mound and they chew it into like a compost, which they feed to their fungal gardens. And the fungal gardens produce fruit, and that is what the termite larvae live on. And then that fertilizes the ground, which creates richer vegetation, and that draws more herbivores, which draws more carnivores, and that enriches the soil, so on and so on and so on. So that's how superorganisms regenerate these ecosystems, by little scraps that they aggregate and convert in these ways. So here we are, we're working, we're living. Those processes and structures are not supporting the adaptivity that we require. I like to think that we actually have the answers we need for climate change and a lot of these issues. The problem is a structural one or a process one. And I really believe that if people understood, more fundamentally the way that living systems work and how adaptation works with the natural selective process, and that we are all relatives and that we're all survivors, and that we adapt and the way that we adapt. I think if people understood those things more, and the value of diversity in adaptivity, and making sure that we design structures and processes that allow us to adapt. So I think these are kind of the 5 big things that I'm trying to kind of spread around with my work. I want to encourage people to be immersed in living systems so they can experience them, because I find over and over again that people just really don't know how things work. They're scared of spiders and snakes, and that belongs outside. It's a process of quieting your fear and opening and looking and learning to observe and listen is a radical experience for a lot of people. So the other thing is that all living things are our relatives and our co-survivors, and the same processes that apply to them apply to us, and we need to know those things. We need to know how this works. And people always have. It's a strange thing that we've kind of buried these fundamental things that we have always known. The human niche itself, that we're superorganism apes, and the way that we are ecosystem engineers, we trigger these cascading effects in our ecologies. It's quite interesting. We're superorganisms. We rely on the same patterns for our superorganisms that other superorganisms do. That collective intelligence and reciprocity, and distributed leadership and transformative collective value, that regenerative value that we were talking about. So those things, understanding those principles that superorganisms work by, we need to know those things deeply. And then just rehumanizing cultures. All the knowledge that we had, our ancestors had, for living in the world and triggering these cascading effects and tending the land that we've collected for tens of thousands of generations has now been severed. A lot of it's been lost or disrupted. So taking up biocultural renewal again and sharing that, distributed leadership that maintains space for individuals to be diverse and be authentic. That's the only way that collective intelligence can come forth. So that's really my thought process and everything that I'm doing, because I think it's the #1 leverage point. If we can catalyze that fundamental paradigm shift, thinking and designing and living systems, it's the fundamental shift that we're after here. My work is all team innovation group. So I think of it as an ecosystem of different endeavors that are all designed around this one premise. So I am trying to spread evolutionary thinking and design in order to rehumanize lives, revitalize organizations, and regenerate biocultural diversity so that we can adapt to change and expand future potential. So I'm going to take you through my endeavors, what is all included in the TEEM ecosystem, and you can see the whole picture, and you can start to see where you might belong or where you might find yourself naturally attracted to contributing, participating in other ways. So we have the Bio-Inspired Ink Press. That's my publishing arm. I've got quite a number of books here. I got 5 titles. The TEEMING 2nd edition is coming out because the first one did sell out. I think there's some more on Amazon, but it's pretty much just the audiobook now. I would love it if you get that. I think it's great. I read it myself. So, and I told I'm melodious. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Tangled Bank, that's actually an anthology of articles that I did for the Biomimicry Manual, and my mom likes that one. So it must be pretty good, a little more accessible, and about different organisms. And it's pretty as well. It's like a coffee table book. Workshop in a Box I'm working on now. The Mycelial Way is an old project I did where I was trying to summarize teaming, those main principles. I really want it to be useful, and so I have a lot of ideas for that. The teaming transformation, I know a lot of you are waiting for that so patiently. That was my Kickstarter. I just finished my 3rd draft. I think it's solid. It's almost readable. I'm bringing it together with the regenerative design frameworks from Regenesis. It's really cool because we need something like that. I mean, it's all very well and good to have this biomimetic kind of view lens on the world, but if you can't work on things, you don't have a process for going to work. So I've been guilty of that for many years, and so I was really thrilled to find the Regenesis folks. Chris Lopez is helping me with that. And then I'm really excited about Underneath, and this is something completely different. This one is Mythic. This is a Mythic undertaking. So this I'm working with Chris Lopez, and he's a storyteller and a regenerative designer. And so we're working on bringing myth with an appreciation of place, so place-sourced regeneration of culture and care and love for the earth. So I'm excited about that one, but that's my dessert. I got to get through the other ones. TEEM and the evolution AI. So this is my business endeavors. I work with organizations on these. So we're evolving organizations. So this is like my consulting, speaking, on-demand courses. I work with the Growth Institute on that. In teaming, we're going to be doing certifications and licensing organizations. If that's something you want to try, we could do that. And then the evolution AI is living systems are noisy and chaotic and self-organizing and diverse. They don't operate on best practices and standard operating procedures, but evolution AI is my attempt to make them do that in an open-ended way. I mean, evolution has operated on deep principles and patterns, and yet it is endlessly diverse and would be if you ran the program again. It would come out different every time. Proofs in the pudding. It's pretty cool. All right, so Bonobo Revolution. This is my collective intelligence and distributed leadership piece. So here is Floppy Tit Flo and her badass gang of Bonobo biker babes. Collective intelligence, you know, we're superorganisms. We require that. We require the diversity of perspectives and expertise and talent, all personalities, all those things. And yet we have this, because of the machine-like structures that we're working with, we are actually purposefully eliminating and suppressing diversity. Raw feedstock of evolution, right? And the other thing is that we know that the number one leverage point on things like climate change and poverty is really education and opportunity for women and girls. So this is my effort to bring awareness to distributed leadership in a way that enables collective intelligence. Chimpanzees, they have alpha males. They like to be dominant, and they will be if they can. You know, yes, they have alliances and friendships, but the males pretty much get to push everyone around and do whatever they want. Now, the bonobos were equally related to them. And there, the males like to dominate as well. They will if they can. But what they do is the females work together to shut it down. So any two females will form an alliance to shut down male aggression. So they keep the whole society more stable and more peaceable, and they all do better as a result. So both of these ways of being are potential for us. They are within us. It highlights the nature of how we maintain the collective intelligence that we require. We do it through alliances that suppress dominance. So bringing awareness to that, and I think that's something we could purposely design for. We did the Women's March. A lot of fun. A lot of my girlfriends from San Diego were there. Krista, of course. We're actually starting a comedy show called the Gaslight Hour and Laugh Riot. That should fun. All right. So place-sourced efforts. We have two. We have the Borrego Institute for Living Design, which is in Borrego Springs, 2 hours east of San Diego. And we're working on rehumanization there, inspiring people to reclaim their human niche, you know, our superorganism selves, and the way that we are meta ecosystem engineers, always tinkering with our environment, causing these cascades. And that's how we manage the environment. That's our way of life. And doing it in conscious ways that regenerate for the future. And then Geoversity School for Biocultural Leadership. So this is what a crazy story. I went to Panama to teach biomimicry of business last February, and fell in love. It was in Panama. I mean, it was just amazing. There's old growth trees and amazing people. And Nathan Gray, the executive director, asked me to stay on as the dean. So, and I was like so blown away by the place and the people, and just like magic. So I said yes. So, and the Borrego Institute is our Southern California campus for that. So we will be working with schools in Southern California, as well as Indigenous youth groups, hoping to work with the Kumeyaay College, their archaeology class, to work on site documenting, because we have a lot of interesting cultural significance in this place. So I'm hoping that happens in the fall. So Borrego Institute for Living Design, experiential immersion in the processes and patterns of living systems. Re-examine your understanding of the world and your place in it. You can gain clarity on your unique living nature. Authenticity and individuality are going to be very key here. Learning to see and cultivate potential in the world. What do things want to become, and how can you help them on that journey? And shifting how you think, what you do, how and why you do it. Manner of approach, not scaring away the animals, not disturbing their lives, so that they'll go on about their lives so you can see it. And then just the empathy of imagining from other organisms' perspectives. And I think that's part of our human legacy that we want to reclaim there. This is a Borrego Institute for Living Design. It is amazing. It's a ranch. This was Gail Gordon's ranch. His friends like Desi Arnaz and Lucy Ball were there. They had great parties, I'm sure. And we can too, so you should come. I am really excited about the creative residencies. So you'll be able to stay there either in our glamping tents or inside. And you'll be able to stay up to 2 weeks and work on a focused artwork, focused learning new skills, project, whatever you're trying to do, but just really focused. Lots of inspiration, campfires with amazing people, including me. And then we paired that with developmental resourcing with Chris Lopez. And this is really special. I've been through this. I'm still going through this. And it's really transformative because it uses regenerative design frameworks and mythic developmental myth and tracking yourself. Gives you a new understanding of how you came to be here with these other creatures and what we're going to do together. I think it's really exciting to look at things that way. It kind of gives you this feeling of a momentous occasion that you have a destiny and you're on that path to finding it. It's very gives you a lot of energy and hope. Yeah, it just gives you energy. Wildflower Weekends. Anza Borrego is famous for its wildflowers. And so between, say, February and May, it just goes off sometimes. We get these super blooms. It's just like a mythic carpet of flowers. So that's really fun to come and camp with that. So I invite you to do that. The School for Biocultural Leadership. It's for gap year students. So maybe you have a high schooler that's taking a year off, or maybe they're taking a year off from college. Maybe they're post-grad. And Indigenous youth leaders. We really want to lay the groundwork for this, this 8-week geoschool journey, which these lands over there are actually managed by the Kuna people. So they are managed by the Indigenous people. And so we know that 85% of the biodiversity on Earth is managed by Indigenous people, 5% of the people on Earth. So this is a really critical piece of climate change management. And so we'd like to be a part of that in supporting a more diverse group of youth leaders to come together and create the future that we'd like to see. We have a specific kind of curriculum. I think this is really fresh, unusual. I have to credit Chris Lopez for this. This is pretty much his curriculum. So we start with tracking our origins, the evolutionary process, and ecology. We do human nature, our origins and journeys, some mythic beginnings. So we all have our own spiritual understanding of the world. So we have these myths that are set forth within us. Tracking different perspectives and our relations. You know, these are all, we all started from one spark of life, and I think that imaginative spark can lead us somewhere that we just don't go enough these days. And I think it takes some of our humanity out of us. And then that pattern mind that Joel Glansberg is always talking about, the nature of place. What do places want to become? What do the populations and the ideas and the people want to become? So then we get into rehumanization and regenerating these cultures of place, because, you know, we've forgotten so much about caring for places. We don't know how to do it anymore. We don't know what the medicines were. We don't know what the foods were and how to prepare them. So I think applied naturalism becomes very important there. Tracking, how to set a fire, how to do these things. And then focus creative expression, like we said, with the creative residencies. I don't feel like that we focus enough on developing our unique skills and our unique expressions. And then bringing in the living myth and developmental myth of feeling like you have a destiny, and what is it that you uniquely are trying to become, and how can you do that with more vitality and energy. Teaming, we put in the designing from a biological perspective, and so teaming is a big foundation for that. Biomimicry is another foundation. Teaming, this process and structure are really key. And I believe that if we were to go to work on process and structure in organizations, I think that would be a major leverage point. And then thinking and designing in living systems. So, that's where we get the biomimicry, the pro-social, that's an initiative from the Evolution Institute based on the work of Eleanor Ostrom, who won a Nobel Prize for that in economics. Patterns for managing common resources map completely perfectly onto what we know about the biological systems. So it's a very biological, evolutionary way of managing commons that actually works. And then regenerative design for developing potential. And that's been a great addition to my palette, is now we can really get focused on getting things done. So this is me at Geoversity in our teaching pavilion. It's just an incredible place. Old growth, cloud forest, birds, it's amazing. You can actually cross the entire continent on your own power, human power. So we kayak, we ride our bikes, we hike over, and then we river raft down and paddle out to the islands. It's all human powered, quite amazing. If you have a student that might be suitable for that, definitely want to go to these links. This Adobe Spark page is on our geoversity.org page. You can see all the curriculum and what we do. It's pretty amazing. And then this YouTube video is actually of a transcontinental expedition that we did with Indigenous youth leaders, and wow, just amazing. So here's what we're doing. We got this place source potential, these immersion experiences at the build, but also in Panama. So I think the really juicy thing here is these immersion experiences, both at the build and at Geoversity in Panama. These places will blow your mind. Creative residencies, which you can do in Panama or Borrego by application. You got something you're working on, some great project or an art piece or writing a book. We've got member camping for the Wildflower Weekends in Borrego. Don't miss that. Living design immersions. These are going to be customized for different organizations, different groups, different needs. So let us know. Artland Trust, that is something really exciting that I'm going to be sharing more about. And then if there's anyone out there that's interested in doing volunteer work or internships, we might have some availability for that as well. The Artland Trusts are so cool. Okay, so this is by Thomas Hirschman and Thomas Hirschman. They have been working with me for a little while. They had this amazing idea. It builds on the NFT idea, although we're getting around the carbon problem. And there's a prototype at mostbeautifulever.com. I believe it's up. But it connects artists, storytellers, musicians, practitioners of traditional ecological knowledge, naturalists, and land stewards with patrons of the arts and place. So it's a living design experiment. And I think it's super cool. You should go to mostbeautifulever.com and check it out. And if you come to the build or Geoversity, this is something that you can participate in, either creating works of diversity or supporting them. And I just love this quote from Michaela. She did the Transcontinental Earth Vision. That was her. And she just says this lovely quote. She's made it. So all this cool stuff. I thought, since it's so diverse and I think it's so cool, but it's hard to, you want to be part of it, but which part? So we got these memberships. It's for business folk, for professionals, creatives, and students, but people that are craving more wholeness and belonging and hope in the world, who want to go to work with others, but in a creative way. So we're a virtual community of humans working to rehumanize, revitalize, and regenerate our world and our role in it, no matter what passions we pursue. So we'll be using the rehumanized curriculum loosely. We'll have different kinds of classes and different kinds of experiences, different kinds of events, many of them virtual. We have the Team Lab membership, and it's only $79 a month. I think that's a good deal. You get books and materials. You get the monthly Living Myth event and regenerative design event. So that will be Chris and guests will take you through frameworks so you can work on your own endeavors, focusing them, clarifying them, and be more purposeful in them. And also connecting with other members. So we'll have a monthly living design event. That'll be with me and other guests, where we'll talk about teaming. We'll talk about process and structure for organizations, more of that living systems thinking. So you'll get all of the recordings. You'll have access to all of that. And then you'll get an invitation to participate in these honeycomb trios. This is a cool thing. You know, what I was mentioning about those honeybees, how they work in trios. So we're going to do these trios where we put 3 people together, flash email chat. So, you know, maybe you get a week of it, different ways we're playing around with it. But we'll have prompts, we'll have some questions. They'll probably be focused on the recordings and on the events. So different concepts that we're thinking about, things that are coming up. And you can talk about them with your group as much or as little as you like. But the idea is that we all share a purpose, but we'll be coming at it from very different perspectives. So I think, I mean, the network of people that I have are amazing. So I am certain that amazing things will come out of it. And then you'll get invited to participate in the Artland Trust, which are coming soon. And then we get that you get media spotlight attention. So let's say you're an artist or a writer, or you're doing something really clever. You get featured in our blogs and our videos and events and things like that. So that's fun. You get a 30% discount on any of the Build or Geoversity add-ons, which is my notion here is that you'll start doing this kind of regenerative tourism at the Build and Geoversity, and you'll start seeing the same people and the same themes and ideas, and you'll just grow and build from year to year like that. And maybe you just do a camping reservation one year, and maybe you do a creative residency in Panama one year. And then you always have that regenerative design resourcing support, which I can't tell you how amazing that is with the, especially with Chris, because he does the developmental myth. It's really special. So if you're at all creative and you're just whatever endeavors you are working on, he's amazing. And then we have another membership for the students. So this is our Geo School membership. So we have the Team Lab and we have the Geo School. That one's only $59 a month. This is for the students. So we'll have, everything will be recording asynchronous. We'll have Living Myth, storytelling hour and feedings. We'll have applied naturalism and tracking, which gets them seeing patterns in their neighborhood as well. So they start to learn how to see, not just what they see. They'll learn about living design. They will get to actually co-create the GeoTV media, which is good. I think it's going to be really cool, especially since a lot of these kids are from the West Side LA, you know, so they're steeped in Hollywood and producing, and I'm sure they're very creative. That you'll get to participate in the Builds Artland Trust, so they'll be making things, all kinds of things, they're learning how to do things that are place sourced. And they'll be getting ready for Geo School in Panama. So they'll be learning about diversity and manner of approach and how to become part of living systems, like in that way that we saw with Jane Goodall, where she went and humbled herself and listened and joined their world. They allowed her to. So cultivating that kind of ability to join the locals, that's a really important skill. And I think it's one that they really need to have before they get there. You get invited to different special events that we have, and you'll just get to join our cool Geoversity family, which is amazing. So all of you that registered for this will get an invitation to the Honeycomb Trios, and you'll also get this recording, and I'll send the slide deck as well for you. You'll get, if you're interested in the memberships, you can go to the teaminnovationgroup.com marketplace, and that'll explain it for you as well. Then our next events are coming up, And so these are all things that you would get that 30% discount on if you're a member. But you can also just take these standalone and then, but you get the 30% discount. So it starts to make more sense to do the membership. So we're going to do a teaming course that's going to go with the teaming transformation and actually taking people through that process, which would ultimately lead up to certification. Because I need consultants. And then we have the Mythic Undertakings Fireside. This is, we'll start in June with that. So it'll be relaxed evenings, telling stories, feeding them. Yes, virtual for many of us. And some of us will be there in person. We welcome storytellers. So if you want to contribute a story, come on down. We're going to do natural building workshops. I want to have little earth domes there for our glamping sites. So if that's something that entices you, come on. We'll do biomimicry workshops and events. I want to have a trail, a biomimicry trail, and we'll do all kinds of design events. It'll be a lot of fun. So thank you for spending this Friday evening with me. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that gives you a lot more clarity. I would love to see you out here at the Borrego Institute for Living Design or in Panama. It would just be amazing. So if you have any questions, let me know. If there's anything in my ecosystem that is enticing you and you have extra thoughts, please feel free to email me. I don't mind that at all. Dr. Tamsin at drtamsin.com. DRTAMSIN at DRTAMSIN.com. Yeah, please reach out. Let me know. Like I said, Teaming Transformation is coming soon. I haven't forgotten you. I'm working hard and I cannot wait to share it all with you. And I can't wait to see you at the build, do a little camping together. So take it easy. Have a great weekend. And I hope to see you out there. Okay, take care.